We have a great Thursday Browns film breakdown for you. We have Behind Enemy Lines, where we are going to visit with Andy Herman, who does a fantastic job covering the Packers. We'll talk with him, all the insights we could possibly imagine about the Micah Parsons trade, how they're doing 2 weeks in, the offensive weapons, the concerns they have, where the Browns can, give them some problems and how this game takes shape. And then before that, though, we want to, in a week of plenty of negativity, talk about storylines that are uplifting and where the Browns can be completely different in less than 4 days from now if they were able to pull off this win. The NFL season, especially the early season, can sweep us up sometimes and make us feel like we are only going in one direction, and that's not always the case here. And we want to touch on those things that are positive at this point as well. So it's Brad and Jake. We're happy to be sponsored by Monfredi Dental. Make sure you check them out just south of Hilliard in Columbus. Fantastic dental location to satisfy all your dental needs. So check them out, monfredidental.com, and we are ready to go. Let's get going with the latest Browns film breakdown. Guys, what's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. It's Jake. It's Brad. It's Browns film breakdown. Wherever this finds you, working out, on the move in the car, who knows, doing dishes, any number of things you could be doing on this fine Thursday. We hope you are well, and we are excited to do the thing we do, jump in and talk Browns and go into some great detail about where this team is through the thick and thin, man, about the good or bad. We're always going to do it. We're always going to be here, and you guys continue to show up on the website. You guys continue to show up on YouTube. You guys continue to show up everywhere. If you're getting this in YouTube, smash that like, subscribe button. The same thing for the audio form, Spotify, Apple. Leave those reviews. Help us reach more Browns fans. And above all else, if you're listening on both those platforms, you can enhance your experience tenfold, coming over, joining the site, the chat, forums, all that great stuff. And then a reminder about the Founders channel. No matter what tier of which you're at with us, we have a fantastic Slack channel popping all day long with Cleveland commentary and discussion, Browns deep dives, and you're involved in it. You're talking to us. You're involved in a chat that Brad and I are in all day, every day, talking about the team, giving our insights, sharing things. You get a free Browns film breakdown hat and some exciting other stuff coming for the Founders as well. So that is a tier of our membership that highly supports the content we make, and everything gets pushed right back into what we do. So if you are in that capacity, we appreciate you. We would enjoy more of you doing that, because I really enjoy getting to know the folks in the Founders channel on a really personal level. That's always really cool. So Brad, I welcome you in. It's Thursday. We're recording a little late, but I hope you're well, man. And what's up in your world?
I am well. Not much in my world. We're making our way through another game week. It's interesting you mentioned the negativity stuff, and how different things would be if just one field goal, right? Week one. A lot of the narratives have spun out of control based off of results. It's a results-based business, of course, but based off of the result of week one and then what it led into week two, which makes our storylines, interesting tonight, I think.
I agree. And what we want to do, and like I said, we're going to get to our guest in a bit. It's a good one, 20 minutes or so with him, talking Packers and how the Browns can attack them, how they can attack the Browns. You'll get everything you need there. But I think there's a lot of negativity going around, and I'm not even saying people are wrong for this. It's easy to talk about the struggle of an early season and what you expect and anticipate. Then you come out of it. You're 0-2. You're frustrated because you should have won week one. Week two turns into a blowout that shouldn't have ever been a blowout. I'm not saying people are wrong. It's okay to be frustrated with this. Also, simultaneously understanding that you expected this to be hard. You expected this to be a challenging stretch. It's hard to balance those two emotions. We're trying to think about that through the lens of balancing those emotions. So our storylines today are less replace the quarterback. When's the head coach getting fired? How do they survive? It's just like, what's interesting. And what I think we talked about, what I'm going to start with, Brad, and then you can have yours, is the beginning of the year. I had wrote two in the preseason. We talked about some other things about how the Browns need to win, and that stuff is obviously very pertinent at this point, but it is the little wins could define the season. And I thought some of the roster pieces turning into meaningful pieces would matter significantly for the young people. So the young players, right? And if you look at that through 2 weeks, there's a bunch of positive going on here. I mean, you go through that list. I'm not going to pull up the article because I can think through most of these. I mean, at this point, every rookie that's touched the field has been positive, right? Yeah. I think you've seen nothing but positivity from Mason. It's getting better every week. I think he gets better every rep. I think he's finding his way. You talk about Carson being right place, right time, very instinctual, everything carrying over from camp. Quinshon gets his opportunity. Obviously, in my opinion, it looked pretty good. We'll see how it continues to get going. More than 20 snaps. They're eager to get him more and more involved. Dylan Sampson and even Dylan Gabriel. right when he found the field. A really successful touchdown drive. It's not nothing. Good throw into the end zone. And then we all know how good Harold Fannin has been. Now set that aside, and we talked about some other guys who needed to take leaps. Isaiah McGuire, really good through 2 games, very productive, looks the part, extension-worthy player. Who knows how far that goes as far as the money element of it, but that's a player I want extended in Cleveland. I think it's worthwhile. I think he plays hard. I think he's the right type of guy in the locker room. You like it. Alex Wright has had some moments, not anything to write home about because I think McGuire has handled that role, but as far as like, I would like that versatile inside out player, played the run really well in week 2. He's done well. Greg Newsome's move from inside corner to outside corner, in my opinion, has gone really well so far. He looks much more comfortable. He looks at home. He's doing really well within the roles they're giving him. He's only given up 1 big play, and that was, again, I talked about it in the defensive film breakdown we posted yesterday. It's DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, it's one of the best ball chasers in the last 10 years, man, as far as guys who track it and go get it, and they're going to win some of those. So
Ridiculous
Hopkins
play.
is really good at it, and it was a ridiculous Lamar play that, I mean, I don't know what other way to say it, and I think I've come to this conclusion that the thing that makes Mahomes and Allen and Lamar really, really special. And this is not the case so much for Burrow, because Burrow's more of a, I would label a dissector when he's really on, when he's feeling it, is that those 3 guys give you 2 plays every play. There's the original scheme, there's the original design that you can hit in rhythm quite often. They're good enough to hit it quite often. But then they can just extend plays and create and dance and elude and make throws that you don't even think are possible. And that's the second play. You want to know why they get paid $250 million contracts? It's because they make second plays out of the original play. The Browns don't have one of those guys. Maybe someday they will, but for now they don't. And that's a big, focusing point about where the future goes. And what they wanted with Deshaun Watson was they thought they had a guy who could make a play within a play, right? That kind of escapability, that rare thing he was doing in Houston that eluded him when he got out of there. But that's the point. But anyway, I digress. Back to the guys here. I mean, even Ronnie Hickman playing every snap, playing really well, looks like an extendable safety to me. Am I missing anybody? Diabate, we got to see him come back from injury. He's playing a little bit more. He's been fine.
Am I missing young players? But like Malik Collins has been a nice surprise.
Addition. I should mention DeJuan Jones. That's one that has not so far. It's not time to write off about it, as we hear today that he wasn't the one who asked to come out. The coaches were playing a bit of a calculated game with some of his heat issues in the past. So that's noteworthy that he wasn't asking to come out of the game. They were being strategic with that. But yeah, I mean, DeJuan has been uneven, but at this point, he's certainly not a player. If he gets cut by Cleveland, he's getting picked up the next day by somebody.
Yeah.
So he's going to be a 4th-year player here, and he'll have a chance to continue to prove maybe he can be a right tackle on a 1-year, 2-year deal, something like that. We'll see. It's too early to write him off. But I would say the returns of those others that we're speaking of, and I even think Cedric Tillman was in that group. He had a good week 1. Week 2 was uneven, but we'll continue to monitor him. I think a lot of those young players are winning for them right now. Now, obviously, it hasn't led to a win. He could very well be 1-1, and you'd be very happy with that.
Should be
at this point, right? So that's just something I think that is like the little victories within. That it's like if you get all of those, if the rookie class is bad, Brad, this year, if they don't get any development from McGuire, they don't get any development from some of these others, then you really have a case to dismiss people in important positions. They need this to be a good group. They need these guys that are on the fringe of developing and turning the corner to turn that corner. And I would say through 2 games, despite getting beat soundly by a Super Bowl contender in week 2, and despite losing a game they should have won over another playoff contender with a healthy Joe Burrow in week 1, there are really good signs here that I think are worth remembering, even in the midst of the depression that comes for Browns fans when these games results happen. There are some negative storylines we could get into. We're not doing that today. We'll monitor it another week. But I think, just early returns, you feel pretty good about it. Obviously, we're going to keep tabs on this at the quarter mark. Going to keep tabs on it at the halfway mark, all that stuff. But I just want to remind folks, 2 really good teams so far, and that matters. And their young guys are playing quality roles for them.
And it could be a critical influx of young talent. Like sometimes these draft classes along with all the UDFAs that you kept around, like it could be a huge offseason of just like look at everything they gained that offseason. At least on the surface so far, it looks like a lot of positivity around this draft class and just this class in general. A lot of young talent added to the roster. And an influx like that is kind of what they needed so badly this offseason as the roster kind of did trend towards older and they're going to try to
And
transition on the move.
there's a lot of this going around right now, which is like youngest rosters, oldest rosters, and like the Browns defense is actually, I think, the third youngest in the league. The offense is like 28th. It's Joel Bitonio, it's Wyatt Teller and Posick, and
line,
Joe Flacco's 40. Like, swap out Flacco and Gabriel or whatever rookie is probably middle of the pack, right? We know the offense is going to transition in a serious way. They picked several offensive players this draft class because they knew that's where they're working toward, right? So I wouldn't worry. This is a young team. This is a young team in a lot of important positions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hear yours, Brad.
All right, my storyline. It starts with the I'll say this, that I have always been a staunch supporter of Stefanski, and that coming off of last year and into this year, the first 2 weeks I have been, I'll say, as is everybody, concerned with the output on offense, right? They haven't got over 20 points. It was last year, for whatever, a multitude of reasons, they were historically bad at times, under 4 and things like that. My belief in him, though, and what we saw last week, which wasn't, we both kind of agreed that they might have gotten out-coached on the offensive side of the ball against a divisional rival. Not week 1, but week 2, probably.
That's fair. I mean, that's not really even debatable.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean you get fired for it, but it's definitely that's how it went.
That's how it went. Yeah, and so there was a lot of predictable stuff there, and I guess just in trends over the years, if you look at Stefanski, I had it the week before the Ravens game. He's like 28-15 in games off of a loss, and that's including all the losses in a row last year. And before that, it was much better, obviously. So he had notoriously, in coming into last season, had always been very good off of a loss, right? This is the first season I think they've ever started 0-2 under him, I believe.
Checks out.
Yeah. So that my thought is that coming into this game, and kind of why I joked yesterday is we called it a hot take or a spicy take, that I feel good about the Browns this week, and I like them in an upset. And part of that, though, is based in reality, in that I think they're going to play in a way, and that Kevin will make changes in a way that he has in the past when they come off of losses and they play a big game that they know that they need. He's been able to inspire enough and make enough changes, wrinkles, some things on tape where he can gain an edge here or there, to get them over the top in what have been some really critical games outside of last year, which was an anomaly, kind of, based off of everything else, that he's found a way to win some big games coming off of losses. And the way that this season has started, I just have a belief in him being able to kind of get in the lab with Joe and find some things that they believe are going to work against this offense. And I think that with Judkins back another week, I think you get more of what we visioned this offense to be than what it has been. Even week 1 was pretty good. I mean, they moved the ball between the 20s, any kind of really 22 first downs, right? I mean, you got to score. But, last week was different. And so I think coming off of that kind of shocked them, and just based off of his past and the way he's been able to pivot in these situations, I expect the offense to look a lot better despite playing a stout, really good defense. I expect them to look a lot better on Sunday.
How about they let the opponent beat them
Yeah,
instead of them beating themselves? Like, can you play a
100%.
clean game? Can you play a clean mental process game? Less hiccups in your process, not even the pre-snap penalties, which they've been better about, but less hiccups in the post-snap responsibilities, and
Yeah,
just stop turning the dang thing over and be better on specials. Like, let's see them do the formula and execute it, and then we'll see what the outcome looks like. Really
yeah,
good defense, really good specials, ball control offense that takes care of the football in every drive, ends in a kick. Can
yeah.
we do that? If you can, you probably have a pretty good chance in a lot of games. Brad, FanDuel has this game down to now 7.5. So there's action on the
Going
Browns
the other
side.
way.
Yes, which I'll talk about with Andy in a minute. I'm a little surprised by it, but it is moving in that direction. And you can get on that. Get Browns at plus 310 right now on that if you'd like. On the money
That's
line.
shocking.
If you're a believer, you can get that plus 310. You can get it's minus 115 for the Browns at that point. They're obviously trying to get people into the Packers side, getting better return on the Packers side, taking them laying 7.5. So, it's there. And I think it's trending a little bit in the belief that they can do this. They can be in the game in this
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I think so too. I just kind of have a good feeling about it, and I think a lot of that is based in what I've seen from them when they've had their back against the wall in years,
I agree.
sans last year.
It would be really
So
disappointing if they didn't come out like we've talked about this. They've come out of some bye weeks before, like Miami in 22. There was another one last year where it's like you got to come out and play like this is everything, and they
sense of
haven't
urgency.
met that at times. I would like to see them meet that this week with that. Since we're speaking of backs against the wall, before we go, one last little item is that of serious injuries. We're going to talk about the Packers side with Andy in a moment, but Joel Bitonio is the newest injury, the only DMP outside of DeAndre Carter in concussion protocol with a back label. We know he missed time with the back injury last year. It's causing him some issues late in his career here. And, some people might be like, well, that's veteran rest. Well, maybe, but they label those veteran rest of late. Like last week, he was a veteran rest label. Like Malik Collins was a veteran rest label this week, today.
Today.
So him being on there, not practicing with a back issue is something to monitor closely. I imagine Tevin Jenkins is first man up in that world. Zenter would be active in that world as the first backup for interior guys off the bench, but we will monitor. That's the only serious Browns injury coming out of this. We'll see how Conklin's elbow progresses. That's a piece of interesting. I like Cornelius Lucas, but I'd like to see a little less of Cornelius Lucas, if I'm being honest. I'd
Yeah,
like to see
seriously.
Jack playing again. It did sound like Kevin was encouraged by his progress. So those are your injuries as we know them. Denzel's not having any issues. He was full go. I don't think there are going to be any other serious things here. So like I said, if you have a strong feeling on this game, now's the time to get in on FanDuel and get the points there while you can.
Yeah, that's started at 7.5, went to 8.5, back to 7.5. That's
Yeah.
interesting. When it does that, especially we thought it was probably going the other way, especially coming off an 11.5 point line that went to whatever it went to. You
Yeah.
joked about cousin Sal, 23 points or whatever. That's crazy. So yeah, that keep an eye on that line. Will be interesting and telling at FanDuel for sure.
All right, that's it for Brad and I and storylines. We appreciate you listening to us yuck it up for a little bit, but now we're going to get over to our time with Andy Herman, who does the Pack a Day podcast. They do a great job. He does some radio stuff. I'm going to go on their radio show on Thursday morning, and then I'll find that link. I will share that with you guys if you want to hear it from this side. But otherwise, he's great, man. He's got some of the best original Packers content that you will find, and he really works hard, and he does a great job. He knows their team well. So this is a good interview. We appreciate you stopping by. Have a great Thursday, guys. And now over to our time with Andy right now. Man, we're happy to have Andy joining us on a really interesting week. We have two teams that don't get together often. You got to think about like the last time they ran into each other. It's that sort of dynamic because obviously different conferences and all of that. And when you get a chance to cross over, and they just haven't had that random crossover that the extra schedule game has brought to us, but that could happen more. Historic franchises, one a little more successful recently than the other, but we're happy to do this. Andy, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it's a unfamiliar opponent. You get some unscouted looks and just some players that you're not familiar with facing. And sometimes, despite maybe records, these end up being a little bit more interesting because of it.
They sure do. There has a chance to. There have been some interesting games between the two, especially the last one that Cleveland came up to Green Bay, and around the time Cleveland was deciding whether to keep Baker Mayfield long term. That was a really tumultuous time in that relationship. It was a kind of a breaking point, to be honest, Andy. So things have gone different directions since then. Obviously, the Packers have found Jordan Love to be the answer, and that's kind of where I want to start. Like, the Micah trade happens. That's great. It's exciting. The Browns have done 2 of those that have not gone very well. But those big time game breaking trades, it doesn't happen unless you have the understanding that Jordan is who we thought he would be. And is that the consensus feeling? Is there any trepidation anymore? Or do you guys who follow the team, and I know you're like me, you cover the team, but you support the team. Obviously, you're a fan at heart. It's a belief that he can win a Super Bowl for you. Are you guys there?
Yeah, I think we're there in the fact that this is a Super Bowl contending team. I think winning it, no matter who you are, you have to go out and prove that. I mean, heck, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson right now are still in that conversation of, they're great quarterbacks, but can they win it all? I'm not certainly putting Jordan in that discussion with those two at the moment, but until you go out and prove that you can win a Super Bowl, there's always that question, right? But I think this was the right team, the right players, the right reasons to make this trade at this time. What I kind of have defined it as is, if you're Brian Gutekunst, you have to, what I would kind of define as, earn the right to make this trade. If you make this trade, we can kind of go back to the Khalil Mack trade, with the Chicago Bears. If you make that and you don't have the quarterback yet, and you're not 100% sure, the trade can still kind of work for you, where Khalil Mack was great for Chicago, but it's not going to get you exactly where you want to go. And it just ends up ultimately falling flat, and you don't actually get playoff wins out of it. You have to have the right quarterback, the right young team, the right philosophy, the right coach, right? Like, you have to have all the pieces in place to be able to make a deal like this. And I think for Green Bay, while there's still ultimately questions of, can Jordan be that quarterback that leads you to the promised land? I think every answer that anyone would give you would be, it's time to find out. And it's time to certainly surround him with everything that he needs on offense and on defense to see if this team can go out and win Super Bowls. And if you're going to do that, at some point you have to sort of take this risk. I think it was the right player at the right time. I think the thought process around Green Bay is, Jordan's a really good quarterback, and he's going to be the starter for the foreseeable future in Green Bay. There's no question about that anymore. Now the last remaining question is, can he be a Super Bowl quarterback?
Yeah, you're helping him with the most significant stuff, right? And we'll talk offensive line, and we'll talk how they're protecting, and obviously some of that stuff. But putting a defense out there that creates chaos, creates turnovers, creates the football back in your hands to create 2 or 3 extra possessions a game is sometimes as simple as that. It's just getting the football more than the other team. And obviously, I think that the parallel between that decision and some others around, important defensive ends is interesting, because the Browns were at a bit of a crossroads with Myles Garrett, and they didn't have the flexibility because of how they structure contracts to be able to do that, yet still have a functioning cap in the same way Dallas did. I would have to imagine, obviously the NFC, there's a little less quarterback heavy. I'm trying to be delicate with it, because there are good quarterbacks in the NFC, but the AFC has these guys, right? These lingering 3 guys. Yeah. And when you're Dallas, you're not far away, and for them to then ship him, I followed, I side eye your Twitter account, because I'm like, what's going on in Green Bay? What's going on? And then you had said some things about, like, it's not impossible here. I am hearing some things, and then all of a sudden it just happens. I mean, this would be the equivalent of somebody like the Bills giving the Browns something like this. It's just kind of crazy. I mean, I can't imagine you thought this would really happen for them.
No, it's interesting, because I'm not somebody that usually has a lot of, sources, whisperers coming to me. Every once in a while I'll hear a thing or two, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But I usually don't have a second source to back it up or anything like that. There was a lot of stuff, and I mean a lot of stuff, that I was hearing leading up to this, where even for me, I'm like, man, this is, and like, it was all from like different sources in different areas. Some of it was like legit football people. Some of it was like fringe football people. Some of it was like people that I like completely out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, I heard through a person, but the crazy thing was like all the stories were remarkably the same from all these different areas. And even despite all of that, even though I'm hearing it, seeing it, getting this extra information kind of on the side, I still was like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Like there's still like, I think at the end, I'm like 5% chance. Like I'm not ruling it out. There does seem to be something legitimate here. I do think there have been at minimum some strong conversations here. I'll still believe it when I see it for two reasons. I mean, Goody is willing to go out and spend. We've seen it with Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Banks this offseason. In the past, Jimmy Graham, Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, Adrian Amos, etc. He's not afraid to do that. There's probably not a GM who loves his draft picks more than Brian Gutekunst. So to convince me that he was willing to give up 2 first-round picks and a premium player and a biggest contract in NFL history for one guy, I'm just like, man, he has not shown in his entire time in the NFL that that's something that he would really legitimately do. And then, on top of that, the majority of these, right? Myles Garrett, you guys are very closely familiar with. Oh, he's going to leave Cleveland. No, he's just going to resign. Oh, Trey Hendrickson, he's going to leave. No, he's just actually going to go back. TJ Watt, he's going to leave Pitt. No, actually, he's just going to go back to Pitt.
Right.
Like we saw all of these throughout the course of the offseason, and everyone just ends with a new deal. Max Crosby, same thing. So at the end of the day, a lot of these teams, they just don't let the premium pass rushers out of their sights. And yet this was the one that ended up happening. So it definitely still was like a shock to the system, even though I was getting all this stuff of like, hey, this is probably like, this might be real. I still didn't believe it until I saw it.
It's an exciting thing. Like I said, I mean, Cleveland's had 2 of them that fail, but the moment of those things coming together is like, okay, I can see the vision. You can see where it's going. And through 2 games, it's been promising. Walk us through those 2, and you don't have to go into deep, crazy detail, but just how you got to 2-0 and how you're feeling through those 2.
Yeah, I think it starts with the defense, and it just in general, Micah Parsons has brought not only an energy and an intensity, but you can tell they just believe with him on the team and him on the roster. Like it's just, I don't know that all of a sudden, like the rest of the defense got better. And while Micah's having a huge impact, it doesn't necessarily just mean that all of a sudden Lucas Van Ness and Devontae Wyatt and all these other players can just start playing better football. It legitimately seems like some of their young players have really taken a step. Guys like Keyshawn Nixon, who we saw signs of being better playing at outside corner last year, has been better again at outside corner this year than he was in the slot in the past. Javon Bullard looks better. Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams still looks like one of the best safety duos. This Jeff Hafley defense, which was really impressive in year 1, looks even supercharged in year 2. There's nowhere to go. I mean, these are 2 good offenses in Detroit and Washington that they've basically completely shut down. There are no 2 offenses that can be more dynamic and beat you in different ways. At least arguably, at least they're in the conversation, certainly Baltimore, Buffalo, et cetera, in that same conversation as well. But those are 2 of the best at being able to beat you in different ways. And they could not find a single angle as to how they had an advantage on Green Bay's defense. That was really special. On offense, I think the thing that's kind of cool is that they've scored 27 points in consecutive games against good teams. And they kind of didn't even look great yet. Like they haven't got Josh Jacobs going. Matthew Golden's only got a couple catches. They missed him on a couple big plays. It just feels like the offense is just a little bit off at the moment. And they're still putting up 27 a game. And that's not like, well, they're getting some big turnover. No, they in this past game, especially, they didn't get any turnovers. In the first game, they got a turnover, but it was kind of deep in the opposing team's territory. So or in their own territory, I should say, like they could, it wasn't like an immediate defense to offense situation. I just think in general, the offense still has a ways to go. And that's exciting when you're already putting up 27 points per game.
No doubt about it. I want to hit defense real quick, just schematically, and then we'll come back to the offense. Hafley, a guy, I mean, I'm a Columbus guy here. A lot of Ohio State fans connect with the Brown side, and they know the name. They know loosely what he likes to do, but remind folks kind of the general structure of what he likes to do defensively. And then I want to add, too, just a little anecdote that we have noticed. The Browns are living in 12 personnel this year. They really like Harold Fannin. They want to use 2 tight ends. They want to get diverse and be a little bit less run pass predictable. And inside of that is a lot of base match, right? Teams will put a 3rd backer on the field. That's logical, right? And I know that as Mike has come over, he's been dealing with some back stuff. And I think that maybe this was something, I'm just guessing, and I want you to correct me. They've baked in some natural rest for him during some of those base snaps. He's playing a lower percentage of base versus nickel. Do you think if the Browns are going to live in like 55% 12, that he's going to be out there in some of their base stuff? Or what do you predict they're going to try to do personnel wise to make sure he's on the field? But this also, this Browns offense is a little uneven. It might be a chance to like, hey, he's a 40% snap guy, but still find some effectiveness inside of those lower numbers.
Yeah, so a couple things here. The first is that Micah seemed pretty done with any sort of snap rotation at the end of week 2. He's like, I need to get out there and play.
Yeah.
I can't be held back anymore. I just need to get out there. So there's a real chance just in and of itself now having these few days of rest with the Thursday night game a week ago that Mike is just full go and there isn't that kind of baked in rest anymore. If there is, it's going to happen on early downs, base downs, more obvious run downs, just to kind of get him out the field then and make sure that he's on the field when there's in those, obvious passing situations. So I think we're going to see probably 50, 55 snaps from Micah if they need it, right? If all of a sudden they're up big in the second half, maybe they don't need it or whatever, but assuming they need it, I think he can give them 50 to 55 if that's what they want to do. The other thing that I'll say is I'll be interested to see how Green Bay plays, that 12 personnel, because they've kind of got two different ways of going about it. You will see them play in base, and Edgerrin Cooper, Quay Walker give them some real unique ways that they can kind of go against that, even in pass defense. If you get to that situation, they've got the guys to play up front. I don't think there's a major concern there. If you do get Isaiah McDuffie on the field as that third linebacker, which he has mostly been so far, I do think there's some potential mismatch opportunities there, but they're going to play a ton of zone defense, which is what Halfley has primarily been so far. But the other thing that they like to do is they'll kind of go in like a big nickel in some of those situations as well, where instead of a true corner in the slot, they'll use Javon Bullard, a third safety in the slot, with Williams and McKinney over the top, two corners on the outside. And Bullard is physical enough to, kind of, if you squint enough, almost play like a weak side linebacker. Now, you've also got another basically weak side linebacker in Edgerrin Cooper. So it's almost like you're playing with a Mike and two weak side linebackers, but it's at least unique enough where it does give you a player who can hold up a little bit against the run and can like fly to the football and be a run defender while still having somebody who, if Fannin or Njoku or whoever might be is, getting off in a route, like Bullard has the ability to kind of cover those players. So I'll be interested to see how they kind of guard against it. It probably all comes down to if they think it's going to be legitimately more run, they probably play McDuffie or maybe a little bit of Tyron Hopper more. If they think like, hey, they're setting us up in 12 just so they can pass the ball and get mismatches, I bet you could see Javon Bullard a little bit more.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. A lot of what Baltimore like to do is get Kyle Hamilton down at the second level and let him be a disruptor, a read react guy, and obviously play that little center field loop when they'd want to run their man coverage stuff. So we'll talk probably a little bit more about that on your show. But coming over here, like offense, you said it's a little slow to start. There have been the running joke, and you can respond to this because I hate national stuff, but this might be how you feel, is that there's a bunch of second wide receivers on this roster. They don't have a primary guy yet. Maybe Matthew Golden gets there. Listen, I got a lot of investment in him on Dynasty League, so I'm hoping he does. But ultimately, it feels like they're trying to sort out. I know that Jane Reed lost with the shoulder and some stuff there going on, but like, how's the weaponry look? Tucker Kraft stepping into his own, and then how's the offensive line feel? And then we'll get to the run game after that.
Yeah, what I would say about this weapon group for Green Bay is there's not a Devontae Adams, right? There's not a Justin Jefferson. There's not a CeeDee Lamb. There's not somebody that's going to dictate targets. I do think Tucker Kraft is going to continue to get more and more and more involved in this offense, and he might even be kind of a go-to guy for Jordan Love. But what I will say is this. They have every flavor of player that Matt LaFleur could possibly want in all of their weapon groups. Now, some of them are not healthy right now. Jaden Reed, you mentioned. Christian Watson's not back from injury yet, but you need a deep guy that can run 9 routes and stretch the field 6'4", super fast. You're going to have Christian Watson. You want a gadgety slot guy? You're going to have Jaden Reed. You want a really great route runner? Dontavian Wicks. You want a more possession guy who can do some run blocking? You've got Malik Heath. You want a possession receiver over the middle who can also, add a little bit of route running aspect to that? You've got a Romeo Dobbs. Matthew Golden, you need a 4-2 guy that can do some stuff after the catch and also win deep a little bit and also is becoming a better and better route runner. You've got Matthew Golden. And at tight end, you've got the overall guy in Tucker Kraft, who's again becoming a major piece of this offense. You've got a receiving tight end in Musgrave, a blocking tight end in John Fitzpatrick, a overall running back in Josh Jacobs, a speed back who's not healthy right now in Marshawn Lloyd, and a third down running back in Chris Brooks. So it may not be that, maybe outside of Jacobs and Kraft, that any of these are maybe towards that elite level of their individual positions, but whatever Matt needs on that particular play that's called, if he needs any of those flavors of stuff to run that specific play, he can plug and play. And Christian Watson might not be a number one. He might be a number one on that specific play call. Matthew Golden might be a number one on that specific, and you kind of get the point. So yes, I think in general, the national media probably has it right. And especially if you're looking at it from a fantasy perspective, stay away from Green Bay wide receivers. There's too many mouths to feed in this offense. But I do think they have the requisite talent to still be really good and to challenge you in a variety of different ways, especially when you've got a play caller like Matt LaFleur.
I mean, sometimes that matters, man. Just having, in this modern world of the NFL where so many injuries are happening, having 6 deep that you can trust to run anything you want out of any diverse personnel group really matters too. And it feels like Jacobs is just one of the underrated running backs of the last 5 years. I mean, you know, obviously his work, but he gets, you know, he signs with Green Bay, and much of the conversations around whether Jordan, who he becomes, who he doesn't become, and all of the other but he seems to be a real beacon of consistency.
He really is. And I think, you know, I understand it because when you've got, you know, Saquon Barkley and you know, Derrick Henry doing what they did a season ago, just easy for a lot of the other running backs to kind of fly under the radar when those two are so freaking special. But Josh Jacobs, to me, is on that next tier. I don't think people quite recognize just how great he was in 2024 for the Packers. This is an offensive line, especially in 2024, that was really kind of set up for pass pro. They're not the greatest run blocking group in the world. And Josh Jacobs made a lot of something out of a lot of nothing on a variety of different plays. A lot of plays that should have gone for -2, -1, 0 that went for 4, 5, 6, or even more at times. Now, the hope is you went out and got Aaron Banks in free agency. You know, Elton Jenkins is now at center rather than Josh Myers, who really struggled as a run blocker. You go out and get Anthony Belton in the second round, who's a much bigger mauling offensive lineman. Jordan Morgan's in year 2, a player that they spent a first-round pick on a season ago. The idea, the hope is that as time goes on, they're going to get better and better and better as a run blocking group. But we haven't really seen that even so far this year, especially with some of the injuries. So Jacobs hasn't quite got going yet. That's not a Jacobs thing. He's still been really good in these 2 games and has even improved in pass protection. But once that blocking gets just a little bit better, expect him to take off. Hopefully, from a Brown side of things for you guys, that's not in week 3. Maybe you wait until week 4 in Dallas for that to happen.
Yeah, to the Browns' credit, they got a really good group up front. We'll talk about that in a second. Injury concerns, anything other than what we've already hit on going into this? It's 10 days off. That baked in rest certainly helps here, but I just was curious if there's anything maybe not out there yet as the early week of sessions of practice start to kick up.
Yeah, so Jaden Reed, we know, is going to be out an extended period of time. He's still technically on the 53 as of recording this, but he's going to miss a couple months at least. There are 3 players who did not practice earlier in the week. Bo Melton, a wide receiver turned cornerback, who is a core special teams player for them. You don't have to worry about him on defense or really anything else, but he is their top, you know, gunner. He's their, you know, one of their top guys in kick return. Like, he's all over the place. He's literally on every single special teams unit. So that's one to kind of keep an eye on there. The 2 big ones, though, are Zach Tom, their right tackle, and Aaron Banks, their left guard. Both of them starters, and both of them did not play a week ago. They did both practice on Wednesday in a limited capacity. They did not practice earlier in the week on Monday. So that's a little bit of an upgrade there. But from an injury standpoint for Green Bay, those are definitely the 2 to keep an eye on. Zach Tom is their best pass blocking offensive lineman. And of course, when you're going against when you're going against Myles Garrett, that's very, very important. And then Aaron Banks, clearly one of their starters at left guard, which helps as well. So those are the 2 big injuries to keep an eye on for Green Bay.
Good stuff. All right, let's close with this, because I don't really do predictions on my side so much as I just like to look at it from your lens. When you look at this game, it's obvious Green Bay's the favorite. I think it's probably going to climb. If it hasn't already moved up a point on FanDuel, I wouldn't be surprised.
Down. It's down to 7.5 as of recording this. I'm actually surprised.
I am surprised too. I love, you know, I support the Browns and understand, but I also look at matchups, and I'm interested in this one and how they get to that point. I love to be wrong, but we'll see. Having said that, when you look at this and you're like, okay, I see where they're coming from. Do you think it's primarily a Browns defensive line causing chaos? Browns are keeping it close because of they're playing good defense. Last week's score, not really indicative of what the defense is doing. Obviously, Denzel Ward had a cramping issue. They picked on some depth corners, and to Baltimore's credit, they did a great job. But the Browns held them in check for essentially 3 quarters. It comes down to, in this one, probably a little bit of like, if the Browns defense can kind of keep Green Bay's offense uncomfortable, and because it's hard to picture moving the football very well on the other side of things.
Yeah, I think so too. To me, whenever I look at a game, it's like, what are your avenues for success? And when you get two teams that are really closely matched, it could go in any different direction. You can win in a variety of different ways. In this one, for me, it feels like Cleveland needs a couple things to go their way, right? Like they probably almost have to win the turnover battle. Like if this is an even turnover battle or Green Bay's winning it, it just feels like a foregone conclusion that Green Bay probably wins that game. You probably need something on special teams. Green Bay special teams was not good in week 2 at all. You can get a really big punt return, a really big kick return, maybe take one to the house. That to me is how Cleveland can keep this close and maybe have a chance at it at the end. And then the other one, like the one thing that I look at in this game, I mean, Myles Garrett goes without saying, he can just wreck any game in any moment. And if he all of a sudden just creates a couple of those big plays, that's certainly within the realm of possibility as well. The one area offensively for Cleveland that I look at and say, maybe they have an advantage. I know your tackles have struggled. The interior of the offensive line, still really, really good with Wyatt Teller, Bitonio. I really like Podc still as well. Those three to me, we haven't seen a fully tested Green Bay interior. They've gotten up to early leads, and it's not like teams have been able to consistently run the football. If you can run the ball inside and make Colby Wooden, Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, who are really kind of 3 technique type players, really bring it to them and gain some opportunity to run in the middle. That to me is maybe where, again, you can grind clock. Hopefully you get those turnovers, a big special teams play. Again, if you look at it and get a couple of those things going in your direction, all right, we've got a ball game. To me, if this one's straight up, it probably is more in Green Bay's favor.
Well, the good thing here is that the Browns have lost both the turnover battles through 2 games, and the special teams has not been very good. But maybe that changes. I don't know, Andy. We'll see. This is great, man. And I don't know that many Browns fans are looking crossover NFC North content, but I do love to give them a person to follow to sort of keep an eye on things. So tell everybody, obviously, illuminate where your podcast is and stuff like that, but also to your Twitter handle for them too.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. You can find me at Andy Herman NFL on social media. And then Pack a Day Podcast. We do a new podcast 365 days a year, wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or over on YouTube as well.
It's fantastic. There's no better Packers follow. Does a great job covering that team. So take advantage of that information, guys. Andy, thanks again for your time, buddy.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.